Hey guys, so just doing a quick intro here. What you're about to see or hear is a live Q&A I recently did where Amazon sellers asked me questions in advance via Instagram, or where I held this live event, which is in the Discord community where we host our leads list. If you're not familiar, I'm a partner in a leads list with Flip FBA. And so if you do want to check that out, there's a 3-day free trial for any of the leads lists you sign up for. Currently, Black Friday, 25% off going on. So hop on that if you're ever looking for a time to just get your feet wet. I've made multiple videos on leads list. It's really what you do with it, but there's a lot of nice perks of ours and being in the Discord community and having access to myself with questions. And even if you're not, you can always send me a message. So I will have links to that stuff below. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the video and I will talk to you soon.
Now. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. So I do have a couple questions here that several people have asked me on Instagram. And if anyone has any questions at any point, just throw them up there and we'll go through all of them. So nothing's off limits, anything Q4, Amazon related, leads list related, mental stuff, whatever, ask away. I'm just scrolling up. If I missed anything. Just talking about this.
Yeah, the
Okay,
first
cool.
question was when does the check-in time start to slow down for the holidays? Mark C said he's definitely noticed.
Yeah. I'm someone that, like, I know people think there's certain time, like, I just chalk it up to there's no rhyme or reason. I'm sure there's boosts of getting more staff and it's in Amazon's best interest to get certain things checked in by a certain time. Frankly, I would just keep rocking and rolling and getting as much in as quickly as you possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not a direct answer, but I don't think there is a direct answer, to be very honest with you. At least not from my experience, and frankly, I can't remember years back far enough that there's a noticeable change. Throughout the year, Amazon just has ebbs and flows. So, I'm sure it's in their best interest to get more things live as quickly as possible come the busiest month of the year. So I would imagine logically it makes sense for them to get things checked in, but it's Amazon, Amazon's
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. So,
I was also told from the company I work for, our account manager, they told us that we do a lot of LTL shipments. Last week was the very last week for LTL shipments. If we wanted our inventory to be available for Thanksgiving and day after Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday, and they said this week, I forget if it was past Monday or past Wednesday, but if you're UPSing items to Amazon and you want your items available for, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, this week was the very last week if you want to get yours um, available. But I mean, it all depends on your location in the U.S. and in
right.
location to uh, a distribution center.
Yeah, totally. Um, do you not send in FBA then and just do FBM, or you keep sending in FBA? So I'm glad somebody asked this. So I think what happens a lot is you hear this time of year a lot of emphasis on FBM. And for those that know what they're doing, I could certainly see where it's advantageous. But if you don't ever do FBM, there's certain data points you need to look for to make sure you can get the buy box, and, like, in my opinion, have a theory behind it, because every item is not the same. So for instance, if I have 100 of an item in stock and I just keep going through it and it's December 10th, right? Well, at that point, maybe I don't want to take the risk that it's going to take too long and I'm going to miss the window. So I will buy them with the thought of FBM. And by the way, what I would also do is go into Keepa and make sure that FBM sellers actually get a piece of the buy box and sales as well. So to me, the only real play that I have for FBM is mentally, is this my only guarantee to sell something before the rush is over? And if it's not, like, I'm trying to, get everything, continuously send it into Amazon well in advance. But if it's, let's just say I have something hidden, it's selling like crazy, and I think that people are going to sell out and it's going to be high demand, I might FBM that as we get closer because I don't want to risk missing the cutoff of the end of December. And when I say cutoff, I don't mean like an Amazon based cutoff. I mean like logically the sales are going to drop substantially and the demand isn't going to be there. So there's so many ways to do it. I would say if I was talking to a friend though, if this is your first or second and you're not very familiar with FBM, I don't subscribe to thinking that this is all of a sudden the time. I have a very different approach, I think, than a lot of things you'll hear, and that is like just we talked about this last time, but like I don't mix it up that much. I just buy more of what I do, and stay on top of like replenishing my par levels for certain items, and just buy more. Like I really don't like do a 180 or anything. I know there's a million people that do, and that's great too. But for me personally, I just stick to what I know. Um, how do you navigate the rush of FBM sellers that swarm a listing? Um, how do you navigate the rush of FBM sellers that swarm a listing? Clarify that for me. What do you mean? Or let's call in if you interpret that a certain way, and I'll come back to that.
Um,
Or-
I I I think it's something we can come back to. Obviously, you can like assume like if there's a hot product and tons of people just
Oh,
come on, merchant fulfilling the product, and you've been a long time FBA seller, and let's say it's a seasonal product like a Christmas tree or something holiday, and you just have a bunch of people who are yeah, marking you down or like just dropping the price because they're FBM sellers and they want to get rid of it, maybe.
yeah,
But maybe if you can clarify, we'll be able to answer it better.
yeah. I think I see here. He said, yeah. I mean, the Nike crew is bum rushing every flip. Um, yeah. I think a couple of things. If you have, for me, we can get into this too. But like, if you have reason to believe that a million other people are going to hop on that listing unless it sells a ton, I'd probably just stay away. Is it just I'm just reading here. You just added. I have some profitable items that I'm trying to decide. Should I jump on the FBA rushing to get a nickel today or send it in and get a dime tomorrow? I see what you're. Okay, so if I have a choice between FBA or FBM, I always like FBA because you can charge more. And if you think about it from a customer, some customers solely filter out searches to be Prime. We're all in like oh, I want something and I want it tomorrow. So Prime is great for that, right? And you get to trust Amazon's brand and stuff. So if there's ever the only time that I do FBA is if I have something that's like a out of during the normal time of year, and I'll also say Q4 is when there's an out of stock item and I'm first and I want to be first to market. I really want to get it listed ASAP because if there's enough demand, people don't care FBA or FBM, they just want it, right? Now when it comes to Q4, I still like the same advantages of FBA. The only thing is again, if I don't want to miss the rush while my stuff's in transfer or it's going from a warehouse to another warehouse or it just got delayed for whatever reason, so you're taking a chance. Now if it's a product that you think will sell fine after, let's say, mid or late December, you'd be fine selling it in January, well then it's more of a personal preference thing. But for me, if you definitely want it to sell before, let's just say, Christmas, it's kind of up to you what you think it's going to take for it to go live. Is that a 1 week cushion? Is that a 2 week cushion? And then I would decide from there if you think you can get it in or if it's worth taking the risk, etc. If not, I would FBM it. The nice thing about FBM, you can always drop the price instantly if you really want to offload it. Whereas in with FBA, you really can't until it goes live. And again, that's out of your control. So you got to weigh all of that in. Um, As a follow-up to that, do you have a list of items you prioritize to for strictly for FBM? I probably have 5 or 10 items, and this is not for Q4. They're just hazmat items that I've done really well with, and so I just find my only real competition is FBM anyway. And then if someone's looking, and you're priced appropriately and you're making sure it's selling and you're buying it at the right price. So for me, FBM any time of the year is not a big part of my game. except for a few hazmat items, or um, when it comes to always for out of stock, I like to list them instantly. Maybe I receive something today, I can list it instantly, and I get a good feel. If it doesn't sell overnight, maybe I will just ship them all FBA. Maybe I misread it or there isn't such high demand. Or if I get 3 sales overnight, 5 sales overnight, I'm not going to send any into FBA and I'm going to order more immediately as well. So I have a small list, I would say, for FBM, but certainly nothing substantial. My game for the most part is FBA, and that's all year round. I think trying to find a less competitive niche, is there less competition with FBM large products? Not doing what everyone else is doing. What about selling to business only customers? Um, First things first, I love that mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really a big proponent of if you're willing to do things that others aren't or have the ability to do things others aren't, you're always going to gain a competitive advantage. Some examples of that are prepping and packing yourself, glass items, if you have the skill set to read no sales rank charts, variations, stuff like that. So I would say this large items, you're probably going to have less competition to a degree, but you're also going to have really high shipping cost, right? So it's one of those things a lot of people avoid it, not because it's as much a headache, it's just there's not as much money to be made. If there was large items and just as and a lot of money to be made, I'm sure people would do that too. So it does come down to like, do you have the space? And you would have to really just look into your shipping cost
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's what really comes down. And then again, and then I would also weigh in, is this a high return item?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have potential to be a high return item? Because then you're going to be getting stuff lugged back to you, and that's going to be a pain too. So there's probably a reason, but I'm sure there's certain people that they've made it their point and they crush it with that, you know? So I like the mindset in general. I think
Yeah.
it's a great thought process, but I think there's probably a good reason why the really large and heavy stuff doesn't work out too well.
Yeah, Sasha, I had a situation when I lived in when I used to live in a city, and I moved recently, but there was a guy who owned a construction company, and he would build like hotels and apartment complexes in the area, and he had a ton of like ceiling fans, wall displays, very large items. And he, luckily enough, we got to talking, and he already had the infrastructure. Uh-oh. um
I'm here.
okay.
Yeah, I'll fix
Okay.
this one second.
uh he had the infrastructure to send those items to the customers, and it worked out well between me and him. And it was just luck of the draw with those opportunities. But if you have the right process in place, I would definitely, make sure there's no stone left unturned.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of Q4 hype right now. Finding niche in grocery and vitamins is definitely a long-term play. Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like I'm not going crazy toys. I'm not going crazy different. I'm just, and I also understand that like it's easy for me to say I've been doing this for 4 years, but I would encourage all of you to have a long-term mindset and like, am I probably missing out on some opportunity in toys? Sure, but the way I really think about it is this. If my spend is X amount of dollars, who cares what category it is? If I only have a certain amount to spend, as long as the things I'm buying match my criteria of ROI and other parameters, who cares if it's toys, if it's, as long as they're good categories. Like, I'm not gonna, whatever I'm saying has worked for me though. If I only everyone gets capped out at a certain point financially, so like to me it's irrelevant where that pie chart comes from during Q4 as long as it comes. And so it's really easy to hear the Q4, the toy hype and Q4 hype, and it's a unique opportunity because it's a
Mm-hmm.
mad rush, right, for like a month. But I've never really gone that route. I've always just kind of stuck to what I know, becoming experts in that, and then this time of year just buying more and more and more of it. So, do whatever you're comfortable with, and again, long-term mindset here. this will be your first, second, whatever Q4. You'll get a better feel for it. I still don't even remember what the previous years truly were like, and I want to like journal and make notes so I remind myself next year in addition to the data. So, um, yeah. Let me pull up. I have a question here from Instagram stuff from earlier. Someone said, "You can't buy inventory with someone else's credit card, right? Mom has employee discount." All right. So, um,
I would be very
it's
careful.
yeah, it's not that you can't. I mean, you can buy anything with anything. It's that if you ever have to provide an invoice, um, I'm not even saying it wouldn't get approved, but like in my opinion, set yourself up for success. Use your credit card that aligns with your Amazon billing address. It's just another way to not have to worry about it. And frankly, if you're buying inventory, uh, I would even say if your mom has an employee discount, I don't know if she can get a family card or something like that. I wouldn't do it. I
I
would never
I
extend, you
I
know.
would not, and it also you don't know about your family members, company policies, and you don't want to put them at risk of losing their job if caught reselling products is not allowed, and it's just it's definitely not it's a slippery slope to go down.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I'm just like for those extra points in the big scheme of things, rewards, whatever. It's like, you know, you're not only sourcing from there. So like, I'm just a proponent. Do it by the book. Have your invoices nice and clean. Set yourself up for success and not headache. Um, I think we've all been there where it's like you're eager, you're questionable about little things like that. Generally speaking, again, back to the long-term play, you want everything to work in your favor, and that would not be, although there isn't good reason to be called out on product if you're buying good quality product, it could happen. Uh, it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's
So,
not worth it, especially if it's only 20% off or something. It's just
yeah, and that's not 20% of all your inventory. That's just from that one store, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, um, all right. Do you liquidate products, and if so, at what point do you liquidate? Okay, good question. So I was actually thinking about this recently. I actually would imagine that at any given time, I would say that 10 to 15% of my products I probably sell for a break even or a minor loss or a minor gain. Okay? And so for me, I don't have a rigid number, but this is kind of my thing. I buy things at the time of buying them, I want them to be 40% ROI, give or take. Things happen. Unpredictable things, you can misread, whatever, right? So I kind of do like a deep reprice every other week. And what I mean by that is I'm going through my items item by item. I organize them, start with the quantity filter. So I'm looking at the items I have the most of because in my head, logically, that's what should get the most attention if you're mispriced or you need to liquidate or whatever, right? So for me, you kind of have a feel if things are selling or not. You don't have to go through every item if you know it's always selling. But I don't think that's a bad idea either. I go into Keepa and I see what's happening, right? And I try to make an educated decision. Oh, the seller count is up. The amount of stock of the seller count is up. It sells 100 times a month. There's 300 units in stock. The price is, $14. I was hoping to get 25. I would have something unforeseen would have to happen for give me any reason to think the price is going to go up. Again, this example, a lot of sellers, there's a lot of stock, way more than the amount that sell. Therefore, for me, I kind of just know when it's time to cut my losses, right? And there's no point of holding on if there's no data that gives me hope. Not even hope. If there's no data that indicates that something's going to change with this price and go back up, right? I don't ever hold on to something because I paid X and I need to make my money back. To me, it's in current day, predicting now and into the near future what's going to happen. And by the way, there's on the alternative, there's times when I don't like the price right now, but I see the seller count is dwindling. the price is slowly starting to creep up. I might revisit that in a week or two. And then it also has to do with your own cash flow and how much you need it and stuff. But generally speaking, I would definitely suggest integrating a deep repricer into your schedule at least twice a week, or excuse me, twice a month, because stuff that is just sitting there, there's no such thing as hopeful stuff for me. It's straight data. Is this price going up or not? And if it's not, and I don't have any reason to think so, let's get it. Let's get our money back. And another thing too, if you're making good buys, it's very rare that you're going to lose your butt on it. You might lose a couple bucks, but like you get it and then you go, you learn from it, and it's a great learn. You learn a lot more from the losses than the wins, and then you take that money and you go spend it properly. So everyone does it. I don't wait too long, and I base my decision on data. Have you heard of prep centers that provide you with wholesale access and mentor you in starting you out in wholesale? And if so, thoughts? I have not heard of that personally. Sounds a little fishy off of my first impression to begin with. Um, I'm trying to think of the angle here of why it would be beneficial, but um,
Maybe if they are the wholesaler and they also run a prep center, that's my only guess.
or they get a cut of it or something
Yeah.
like that. Now, the more units that you bring them, the more money they're going to make on prep and pack, but um, that seems a little fishy. I'm sure there's some legitimate stuff that I can't think of with that, but my instant thought is A, I haven't heard of that, and B, um, a prep center, it seems a little risky on their part. I would like if they're pushing someone towards a product or whatever, and it doesn't work out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be weird.
They're selling.
Okay. After reaching certain numbers in OA, is it natural to go wholesale or not? Okay, I like this question. Um, I totally could see the logic behind it. So here's kind of what I think. First off, there's so many different ways to do this. You have to really think about like, do you pros and cons? Do you have space? Do you prep and pack yourself? Whatever, whatever. I don't know. So, but like for me, the more I do OA, the more I realize that as long as if my budget continues to increase, I would prefer to continue doing OA because I really like the ROI and the margin that I'm getting with it. With wholesale, I think the general consensus is you can spend more. It's a much steadier process. It's not as volatile, but your ROI is substantially lower. So what happens maybe is like people say, I have, and it's not nearly as time consuming from what I understand because you don't have to source every single day. You're kind of just replenishing the catalog. So maybe you were doing all A up to spending 50K a month. You're like, I can spend 80K now, but I don't have the time to do another 30K of OA. So I think that's a natural progression for people doing wholesale. My thing is this. I'm really big on like just become an expert in one thing, whether that's RA, OA, wholesale. I've recently talked about this, but none of these businesses you can build equity and sell it one day. So whatever works for you. For me, I'm gonna go with the thing. I just want to get really good at OA and continue to increase my ROI and margins, um, because it doesn't take me so much longer to find more and more products because I have the skill set now. Wholesale, I'd have to learn a whole nother game for less margin, and it's not like I can sell that business model one day anyway. So some people, I can totally see it. There's certain products that I come across with OA that would maybe make sense wholesaling, that you really want to buy a lot of. There's no one right or wrong way. Logically, I can see where people think that way. For me personally, I'm just really gung ho on like get locked into one thing really well and just keep getting better and better at that.
And also, I feel like a lot of people go into wholesale too quickly, and wholesale is very, dollar driven rather than margin driven, and you really gotta sell volume in order to make the same amount of profit that you need to operate your business. So it all depends on where you're at, but I feel like too many people go into wholesale too early, and they get burnt out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at wholesale as like honestly just like less work, less ROI, ROI, great, you know. But I also, with Amazon still being Amazon, like I really don't like the thought of spending 50K in hopes
Mm-hmm.
of making,
Three
like
thousand.
5K on that.
Yeah.
Like to me that doesn't I want to spend 50K and gosh, maybe make 15 or 20K. It's a lot less exposure and risk because there's still things that can mess with your account and stuff, and like I don't know, I don't love risking that much for that little. I'm sure other people have much higher margins, but like for the average seller, you're not going to be there right away. You have to build relationships and get good pricing. Your $1,000 order, $10,000 order isn't going to like make them want to do that until extended period of time. So um when setting a minimum and maximum in your repricer, do you manually set your min max for every product or you have it automated? I actually manually do this. I think repricing is like it's such a good way to make more money without having to find new products and spend more money, right? Like you've already done the hard part. Make sure it's priced appropriately. And so it doesn't become overwhelming. I just mentioned that I do a deep dive every 2 weeks. Well, every day, every other day, I'm making sure that all of my products have a minimum and maximum because, when you send stuff in all the time, different things get checked in almost every day. I never want to have a product sitting without a repricer going on. And so at that point in time, I just simply go into Keepa. Where do I stand on pricing it today? And now it becomes part of my every 2 week, let's say, deep dive. So, that's why I do it manually. And each product is different. There's certain products that I spend 25 bucks on and I want to make $20 on it. So I'd be selling myself short if I set it to a 30% ROI minimum. And contrarily, something that maybe is more expensive, I spend 100 on, I'm okay with $20 profit, right? So that would price me out if I just set it to ROI. If by your question you just mean a blanket policy for all products, because if you're doing it individually, if you're asking me separately, do I do it based on ROI individually? Also, no. It's just based on what I think appropriate pricing is, given the day that I'm looking at it. Let me pull up a question here from Instagram. Your thoughts on ungating using Amazon to Amazon? To be honest, this is something that I didn't really know about until recently, and I've tried it and I've been unsuccessful. So if anyone's had success, I've just had bad luck getting ungated recently in general. I think things are just a little tighter. I've certainly heard this from some other people I talk to. I mean, when I go to an Amazon order, you literally can click view invoice, and that's what I provide, and they're denying it. So, and I've tried it like, 5 times or something like that. So, in theory, the thought's great. My sample size is one, and it's been unsuccessful. So, for that, someone else might have some better input than me, but I know it has worked, and it does work,
It does.
but it hasn't worked for me.
It does work, but I also think Q4 is a very difficult time to get ungated in a lot of brands. They just tighten down restrictions in Q4, and it's overall tougher no matter the method. It's tougher to get ungated, but I would definitely check out our ungating channel if you're in the Discord. We have tons of guides on how to get ungated in different in tons of different brands and lots of great details there.
And again, chalk some things up to Amazon being Amazon.
Exactly, yeah.
Like it just who knows? It is what it is. Have you had luck flipping Amazon to Amazon? So that's something new that I've started integrating. So once again, just kind of as I was mentioning, I think you should become very good at one or a specialty. For me, that's online arbitrage. And then within that is different sourcing methods. I think I'm excellent at like keep a product finder and all the different things like that. Manual sourcing. Amazon to Amazon to me has worked really well. Um, I haven't been doing a ton of different items, but the ones I have, so like a great example, one that I have right now, I know a brand that is it's a national brand, very low stock. I'm checking every day for it. Amazon was carrying it recently, and I could tell Amazon only had like 10 in stock. When the Keep It chart showed that they were constantly in and out nationally, I can tell it's very hard to get. So I'm painting a picture here. So I'm checking Amazon every day, and if they get it in stock, I'm buying it, right? And then even if they're going to be in stock for a while on this one pack, well, there's also in my back pocket a 3 pack and a 4 pack that I can sell it on too. Just as a random example, I've been playing around with Keep a Product Finder and filtering it so that I can look at products that Amazon is in stock and out of stock, like, whatever your metrics are, 50% of the time, 30%, 70, whatever they are. It's kind of new to me, but the ones that I have been doing, it's been really good. It's
Mm-hmm.
been really good. And sometimes Amazon is just incredible pricing, And I will say I only do A to A buying from Amazon as the seller. I don't buy from third party sellers,
Yeah.
but I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity with A to A. It's like anything, like you get good at it. I think the key is playing around with Keep a Product Finder, dialing in the filters so
Mm-hmm.
that you can find when Amazon is in and out of stock at a rate that you like, but also it's not when they're selling it when they're in stock for 20, when they're not it sells for 29. You're looking for the when Amazon sells it for 6, other people sell it for 25. That
Mm-hmm.
nice discrepancy there. So,
Yeah, I was a big time Amazon seller. I think it was holiday season of 21, and I would say it turned out to be 90% of my business in Q4 21. It was just it Keepa, especially the deals tab on Keepa. If you put your filters correct on the left side, you can really find some great products that are Amazon flips, and like he was saying, a $6 to a $25, uh, and you're trying to look in the range of Amazon being out of stock, 60 to 50% of the time, and you want to make sure that you don't you lose it on and get stuck with a lot of products if Amazon does come back in stock with a big shipment. So uh, I would always be cautious as well, because I there was a couple products where I went too deep on Amazon Flip. So just be mindful of the velocity once you start to sell at that higher price. Uh, because your velocity selling a product will not be the same compared to Amazon selling it at that $6 price versus that $25 price. So always be mindful in that as well.
totally. And also make sure that you're understanding that, like, if Amazon's out of stock for a sliver, that's not like ideal A to A, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
back in stock and then they're going to be back deep. I also think it's really nice to have something in your back pocket of something I like to do if you are concerned about Amazon coming back. I would suggest, because Amazon sells national brands, well-known products. They don't mess around with like little one-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. Go do a search on some other sites and see, are they all out of stock, or are they all starting to come back in stock? Because if they are, good chance if Amazon's one of their customers, Amazon's just minutes away from doing a nice replenish themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to paint a picture, and also I would say have in your back pocket, if all else fails and Amazon hops on, am I okay selling it at having to undercut them, or doing a create a removal order, and is there maybe like a 2 pack that I can at least make a couple bucks on,
Mm-hmm.
or a 1 pack? That's very common too. Again, for very a lot of Amazon products, there's 1 packs, 2 packs, 3 packs that maybe they're not on. That could be a silver lining too. So like anything, I wouldn't test it out. It's a new process for everyone. Learn it, make your mistakes, that's fine, and just make sure you do things the right way. Don't ship prime, um, and stuff like that.
And
So
that kind of goes into a question: have they gone back and forth allowing Amazon to Amazon? Um, I would be very mindful. I don't know what you're doing, Jonathan, on your Amazon flips right now, but when I did it, I always had a secondary account. I did not use the same email as my seller account. I had a separate email, a separate account, and I never used Prime shipping because
Yeah.
that's where they get you. So make sure if you're doing Amazon, you are you have a separate email, separate account, and you are not using Prime shipping. You're just a normal Amazon customer because you don't want
Yeah.
any traces back to your seller account because you don't want that risk.
Correct. And I would say another thing, and I heard this from someone that I really respect in the space too, that does a lot of A to A. Um, I'm not trying to be discreet or anything. I'm making sure that that new account, the address matches my business address that I used for my Amazon seller account. Because if they were to call me out on it, it's look, I'm using this for my Amazon business. You know what I mean? It's not, it kind of eliminates some confusion where I think some people think you just have to have everything different. Yes, separate email, separate account for sure, but I lined up my business address to match that as well, just so you
Yeah.
guys know. Which is my home base address anyways, just so you
Mm-hmm.
guys know.
Yeah.
Um
Before
what is
we
a good way to predict the future seller count on a product? So I like this question, and this is really important. I'm really big on like out of stock items. I also like filtering for decreasing seller counts. So basically, I'm just kind of a couple things here, right? Let's just think of a product. First things first, just the eye test. The seller chart, you're just looking, has it been decreasing? And, is that decreasing over the last 3 weeks, 3 months, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just one way. You can just visually see a decrease in the amount of sellers. Okay. Now, I will say stock and the amount of sellers are two different things and could be a little different. Like there could only be two sellers left, but they each have 1,000 units of something in stock, right? So decrease in seller alone isn't enough. You also want to check their inventory levels. And then I always like to like, especially if I'm replenishing something and I'm like, oh wow, I've been selling this a lot, a good price. Let me look into this. Before I just go buy more of it, I go to 5 sites or do a Google search and understand how easily accessible is this. And if it's not easily accessible, then I have reason to believe the amount of sellers are going to continuously sell out of what they have because based on my research, there's not a whole lot of inventory out there, right? So I test and keep a amount of stock that they have, and the accessibility of the product are like three great starting points. But I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I would just look at the visual typically of like, where is this chart going, right? Is it constantly up and down, or has it been pretty steady? And then I do a Google search and it's hard to find. And that's kind of how I predict, you know, uh, the future seller count on a product. Sorry, I think I misread that it was only looking into it like a decreasing, but same thing applies. If I were to see a chart that all of a sudden increase in the amount of sellers, if I do a Google search and I find this product's everywhere, very accessible, that would also tell me it's going to go up, right? Um, if you're starting to just those type of context clues, those are really the three simplest ways: their stock, amount of sellers, what's going on in the visual chart, and when you go to find the product, how easily accessible is it? And then the more you do this, you just kind of get a feel for things too. um, in the event Amazon randomly jumps on a listing with no Keepa history to backtrack, how long would you hold until liquidating because they hold the buy box? Good question. First things first, I would see how much, try to understand how much stock they have relative to how fast the item sells. Um, so just because Amazon's on it doesn't mean they'll be on it for a while. Depending on how hard of a hit it is, that's another factor. Like, let's say you're trying to sell it for 20, Amazon's on for 17.99. I would probably pretty quickly just sell it for 16.99 and move on with my day. After giving it a week or so to kind of get some feedback. Um, if I have reason to believe they have a lot of stock, um, and you're pretty confident about that, I would just get rid of it. either offload it or have a create a removal order and try to find a better listing for it before you create the removal order. Um, so yeah, that is part of the game, and there are sometimes things that you cannot predict. That's okay. Like I will say though, it's very, very, very rare that Amazon has no history on a listing and then all of a sudden hops on one. At least from my experience. I see what you're saying. Doesn't Amazon track your IP? Um, I don't. I think they do when you're logged into Seller Central. They can see where you are, but nothing's wrong with A to A or doing it from the same Wi-Fi or your same computer or anything. So I don't think it's an issue or concern regardless. The biggest thing is just following their policy, which is not to use Prime, and that's really their only real major requirement. Walmart.com has been an amazing resource for me to sell my inventory that Amazon has jumped on. Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, if you find products and you find here's a great thing though. If you find a good product, high demand, there's Mercari, there's eBay, there's Walmart. If you find something at a good price and it's a high demand items, you're going to be able to offload it and probably not take too much of a hit. Just when you do it at scale, sometimes it's just easier to say, let me lose $2 or $5 or even $10 and just undercut Amazon and never see this product again. I definitely think there's instances where like, you use the other sites to offload and even make a couple bucks. I had another question here. Did you buy anything from the Walmart early Black Friday? Um, so I might have a little bit of a different opinion. As I've kind of mentioned earlier, I don't get caught up in like toys or different games. The thing is, um, there's a ton of opportunity with Walmart. There's a ton of opportunity with Target. You find certain listings, you go down certain rabbit holes or niches or two packs and bundles. But whether it's Black Friday, whether it's a huge Nike sale on Labor Day, or anything else, you always have to think, how hard is it for my competition to find the same item? And if the answer is not very hard, good chance, especially on a major site, the prices are going to tank. So it's not that I don't think there's opportunity, but for me, I'm just staying in my lane of the niches I know, the listings that I know, the expertise that I have. And I find that I do much better with those, generally speaking, than I can't tell you a time, for instance, over the years that I've bought something on Nike when there's like a site wide 20% off or whatever, and that I've ever hit home runs out of it. And I think it could all apply to that. Now, does that mean other people can't? No, not at all. But for me and my model, I just stick to the stuff that's really up my wheelhouse, and that I think have a lot less eyeballs on them. I don't want to play a game typically of the only way I'm making money on this is if I'm first to market. Um, but again, there's opportunity everywhere. That's just me specifically. Let's see. So one other person had a question for me. Uh, okay. Yeah, they were asking a question, but they were just not sure how to look at something, so I don't want to bring that one up because it's not relevant here. Okay. Receiving from prep to FBA, then waiting 2 weeks plus 4 days per ACH to get paid looks kind of slow. Have you ever used those services that you pay next day post sale and take a fee in order to grow faster? No, absolutely not. If I was speaking to my younger self, a friend, whatever, if you don't, if you're not in a place that you can't wait the extra couple days, I don't think you're in the right place to scale. If it's really important, now again, that's me personally. I think a lot of people get really caught up in scaling too fast. I think a better way to scale, quote unquote, because what really matters is profit, is get better at sourcing. If you have a limited budget, increase your parameters, increase your ROI requirements, and now you can make more money with less risk. instead of scaling. Revenue doesn't mean anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about the profit. I would say again, long-term mentality. Now everyone's different, but if you really need more capital, there's Amazon loans, there's advantageous credit cards, so you're not tapped out. And if you're already using those, then you probably don't need the pay advance type of thing. There's not a one size fits all, but I think a general rule of thumb would be like for any financial advice, which this is not financial advice. Um, I'd rather be patient and not. I don't want to. I don't want to pay someone. I don't to take a cut to get it to me a couple of days faster. I'd rather be better at sourcing, find other capital means, and just have some patience. To be very frank with you, if I was talking to a friend.
Mm-hmm.
On average, how long do you look for a certain product on Google? For example, you find a product on Keep It that looks promising. About how long would you try to find that product? That's a good question. So here's like a great example that I come across day to day. I like out of stock items. So I do a keep a search, out of stock product. I know if I find this product, even at full price, uh, it's got a nice cushion there, right? So every product's going to be different, depends on the upside. Um, but if once you start doing this, here's another is advantage of expertise. Like let's say there's a certain cosmetic brand that I'm doing this for that I really like. I know the 10 sites really well that I buy it from all the time, right? So I go to all 10 of those, I'll do some manual sourcing. That might take me 10, 15 minutes. If they don't hit today, that's okay. I'm going to save the links to those products and I'm going to click on them every single day. So this front loaded 10, 20, 30 minutes specifically for out of stock items is going to make be a major payoff because now I have those links that'll literally take me 20 seconds to click every day, and you better believe eventually one of them is going to click and connect, and you're going to be the first one, and you're going to be able to have your finger to the pulse of, oh, these are starting to come back at this site, let me gobble them all up, right? Not a one size fits all answer, but using out of stock as an example, yeah, I might still spend 15, 20, 30 minutes uh, if I think the upside is there. So, um, yeah, and especially early on, listen, everything's front loaded. Put in the time up front, spend the time. It's gonna pay dividends over the long run. It really is, right? I think as a general rule of thumb, if be patient with your sourcing, especially as you're new, it'll pay off so much over the long run. It's just very front loaded. So rather than go from site to site to site waiting to catch your first fish, plant yourself, understand it's going to take time, and know that it's going to pay off in the long run, just as a general consensus.
Um,
See SK21 typing.
yeah. Other than that, if anybody else has any other questions, get your
Yep.
last couple questions in, and we can kind of start to wrap it up.
What is a generic listing and how to know if you're looking at one? Um, okay, so every listing is going to have the brand associated with it, and generic will come up if it's a generic listing. Basically, my understanding is over time, people have created not bogus listings, but haven't attributed the proper brand to that item. And Amazon's starting to crack down on it. And instead of entering the brand, people would type in generic. Okay. And so now Amazon's cracking down on that. A really, really simple way to find out if you have any in stock is to go to your Seller Central account, go to inventory, just type in the keyword generic. That worked for me to find all of them. And I just created removal orders, or if you want to roll the dice and lower the price, you want to get rid of those ASAP. And that's only really come to light recently because Amazon's cracked down on it. You hear of deactivations and stuff like that. I can't speak to that exactly, but I would just not have any. And if you come across them, just avoid the listing.
How many listings did you end up having?
Just I think like eight, nothing crazy,
Okay.
and quite a few were old. You know, I see some typing.
Yeah.
I'll just hang tight. Are either of you a part of the Amazon Assurance program, the one that guarantees they won't shut you off as long as you have a specific health score for 6+ months? I mean, I have it just because of my longevity and account health. Like
hmm
I fell into that. I think it's a little peace of mind. You know, in theory, they'll call you before just suspending you or something like that. Um, I think it's just a little bit of peace of mind, really. I wouldn't, just do things the right way and you should be fine. I didn't like apply or anything. It just happened.
Yeah, same
Uh,
same here.
yeah. Recently had an item I needed to remove due to the product having a new transparency barcode update. Have you run through any other problematic scenarios? Um, to be very frank with you, I'm not familiar with what a transparency barcode is. Colin, are you familiar with that?
I'm actually very familiar with
Okay.
that. So, I would say uh, August of last year, I had a very, very good product. I mean, it was the first month that I've ever made $50,000, and it was from this one product. And sure enough, the it, the brand added transparency codes, and the where I was sourcing it from, the products did not have sourcing codes, or I'm sorry, not sourcing codes, transparency codes. And basically, what it is, it is a unique identifier QR code on every individual product, and each QR code is different from each product. So the company that I work for, we looked into it for all of our products as well, but it is uh, very very hard to it's very labor intensive, and there's a lot that goes into it, and it's very expensive. But if a listing that you are on has a transparency barcode, or they tell you that you need to provide details of the transparency barcode, you have 30 days to sell through your product or your inventory that you have, um, left, and then after those 30 days, all products going forward will require the transparency barcode. It is mostly for beauty products. There's been a lot of tech products. When speaking to one of the guys who is like the main manager over the transparency program, he said that uh, a lot of items in Best Buy you will start to find the transparency code on. But if you have products that are um, that have a transparency code, or you go to apply for a listing that has transparency codes, um, if you are an RA sourcer, I have had no issues in the past of just submitting the transparency codes right there in the store without buying the product, and then hoping to get approved from those transparency codes. But I've tried every which way to get around those things, and they are very, very difficult to get around. In my mind, I would try and stay away from the transparency codes. Uh, but if you it's also just a pain every time you have to send in a shipment. You have to scan all the transparency codes and you have to upload the file. Obviously, it may be a while since the last time I've sold products with transparency codes, but uh, luckily you have 30 days um, to you have 30 days to sell through your inventory. So hopefully you're able to move um, through those. Yeah, you have to enter 10 plus codes available to enter. Mark says I think it honestly depends on the listing. Some listings I've seen 5, and some listings I've seen 10. Uh, so it all depends on what you're going. But the whole program is Amazon is definitely making a ton of money from this program because every barcode is right around 50 cents each, and obviously there's quantity discounts and you can get it as cheap as 20 cents, but they are making a ton of money on this program, and they're really pushing it to a lot of big brands.
I learned something.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a crazy program. Yeah, I agree, Mark C's. Anything with the transparency code is off limits for now. Yeah. Da, da, da. Well, da, da, da. Yeah, if anybody else has any other questions, we'll give it a couple seconds, and but other than that, just want to say thank you guys for joining.
And I know some of you have, but like if anyone's really like putting in the work and really trying, and if you have like a keep a chart you need a set of eyes on, just message me on Instagram. Like I know Mark's Tees like takes advantage of that. Not I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I that came out the wrong way, but like I told him I was like, hey, you're constantly putting in the work. If
Yeah.
anyone's trying, I want to help them succeed. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And all you guys are subscribers to the lists. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or him on Instagram, and we are more than happy to help you and walk you through a list or a listing, or if you have any questions or any brands that are looking for, or any trends that you're seeing, please let us know because it only any feedback you guys have only does better for everybody else. So um, feel free to reach out whenever possible. Yeah, Jemmy, hopefully there's a gem for the effort you're putting into the transparency codes. Hopefully there is.
No, hey, I mean this. I told you this. Mark C said I'm more of a ask for forgiveness and permission. I mean this. That came off the wrong way, as I told you. For anyone putting in the work, seriously, like I think as I get older, especially, I'm like I really want to help people that are especially that are willing to put in the work. That's the biggest thing, right?
hmm
Like I want to genuinely help people. Now I'm doing this for years. I can really see what it leads to. It's not instant gratification, but like it can make somebody substantial money if you just stick to it, and it's not rocket science. So yeah, awesome, man. I appreciate that. One day potentially.
hmm
We'll see. So I hope you guys got something out of that. I really enjoy doing these live Q&As, as I've mentioned. Be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Instagram. I post there, or follow Flip FBA. We both kind of co-promote these since they're being held in our leads list where we have a partnerships Discord, right? Once again, if you're looking to join a leads list or check it out, we have a 3-day free trial for any of the leads list, and currently Black Friday promotion, 25% off, just automatically appears in your checkout. So if you're ever considering it, I think it's a good time. As I've always said, leads lists are what you make of them. Save them, use them down the road. Use it to expose you to new ideas and sites and brands. Send me a message if you have any questions. And appreciate you guys being here. Jonathan, Duke does Amazon. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.